Hello everyone. Today we're going to be looking at STK Scheduler. STK Scheduler is a very powerful tool to run some behavioral and schedule and resource allocation analysis. This is a quick walkthrough, so we are going to be going directly into the demo, and we're going to start to use Scheduler here. So I have STK Scheduler open, and I want to connect it to an STK scenario. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come into STK and go to Load Scenario. I'm going to change the scenario path, and I'm going to load up schedule 001 or whatever your scenario name is. I built this scenario very quickly, and it includes a few ground stations as well as a few different satellites. The satellites are at MEO, Geo, and LEO, and the ground stations are spread around the globe. And what we want to do is we want to optimize the context scheduling so that all assets are being communicated with at all times. Each ground station can only communicate with one satellite at a time. And as you can see here with the green lines indicating this, say, UAE site is technically able to communicate to A and C at Geo, but actually it only has the ability to accommodate a single satellite at a time. So SDK can tell you what are the possible links, but we need Scheduler to actually schedule which contacts to take at which time in order to accommodate all assets, all LEO, Geo, and MEO assets. So what we're going to be doing is loading these assets into Scheduler and running a schedule. So what I'm going to be first doing, maximizing my screen, I'm going to actually ingest my resources from STK. So I'm going to select resources, ingest from STK, select all. I'm going to select my ground stations as well as my satellites. And I'm not going to ingest the chain here. So all of my resources are shown up at the bottom. If you double click, you can actually edit those resources. You can change the priority, the setup, teardown times, as well as any other information you have about this resource. Resources can be, you can actually use accommodations and showing how many different things or how many different actions can this resource, or how many different tasks can this resource actually accommodate. And for many different resources, that accommodates one. And for this example, we're going to set all the accommodations for all of these assets. We're going to maintain them as a default of 1. If site in Japan had a second sensor or could accommodate more than one asset, you can change this accommodation. So we're going to press close and actually just not modify any of these resources. We're just going to use them as is. Now what we're going to do is we're going to go and create a new task. This first task is going to be called LEO Com. We're going to be looking at the LEO communications first from all the ground stations. The thing you do is actually press tab and actually specify your ground stations. So what I'm going to do is build a resource constraint using the and, or, and the parentheses nomenclature. So first what I'm going to do is I want to set up all my ground stations. So I want to do my ground stations, any one of them, to any one of the LEO satellites. So I'm going to use these parentheses, select site JP. I can either press include here or double click on that object. So what I want to do is I want to use site JP or site UAE or site UK or US West. So now I have 4 different sites. So the resources that I need to use for this task are the Japan site, the UAE site, the UK site, or the US site. Okay, so now my ground stations. Now I want to use an and, just like a chain, just like a link. And I want to say and use the parentheses because I'm going to use multiple objects. And I'm going to select LEO A or Leo B, or Leo C, or Leo D, or Leo E. So now I have any ground station to any Leo satellite. And now it's important that you actually select create possibilities. Okay. Possibilities at the bottom, no violations found, as well as possibilities have been created for this object here. You can press update, and what you'll see is LeoCom as a task shows up here. Now what we can do is we can look over to the right-hand side and take a look at the different possibilities. So this is very similar to what we saw in STK. There are multiple possibilities for Leo A, B, C, D, E to any one of those ground stations. There are 20 different indexes that we can use, and so we want to understand those. Okay. But right now, that's just setting up the resource allocation. Now I want to say, how many times do I actually want to do this? So if we go back to the scheduling task, right now it's set for a single instance. But no, we want to communicate with many and keep communicating with our ground stations to our LEO satellites as much as possible. So we're just going to set up a recurring task. This is going to be continuous and just try to define these by resource availability. Okay. As you do that, when we press update here, you'll actually notice that the task has been split into other multiple tasks. These are different possibilities that can be accounted for, and we'll take a look what they look like in the Gantt chart. Okay. So now if I press update, you can select OK. It already had updated, so that wasn't necessary. So now if I press close, what you can see is in the Gantt chart here, all possibilities, all possible times. And if you hover over them, you can see that these are essentially the access times from resource Leo C to site UAE. So these are all the different resource windows that we can actually account for. So if you go back to STK, it'll look very similar to all the Leo objects here. Just in now this is in Scheduler. Okay. We go back into Scheduler, what we can do is we can say, these are all the possible times, but please, Scheduler, build us a schedule of when we want to communicate to these LEO satellites using the constraints that we've defined. So what we can do is just either press run, or you can go to schedule and select go. And so now you'll see these little green. This green indicates that these tasks have been scheduled at those specified times. This is good. You can see that initialized, scheduled, updated, validated, displayed. It took less than a second to calculate that, which is really great. And you can see that we actually have 95% being accepted. That's a number of assigned tasks are assigned is 95%, which is fairly good. Okay. So if we press save, that's it. We can save the report, or we can press close. If you scroll down to the bottom, you'll be able to see that, oh, these are 3 tasks that could not be defined. Why was that? Well, if we take a look, the tasks actually at the original task, at the LeoCom task right at the bottom, excuse me, we can actually see what the total time was. So each contact that we set up was required fixed duration of 10 minutes. But in many cases, we don't actually need that long of a contact. We only need, say, about 3 minutes. So what we'll do is we'll update that contact, and we'll change the duration to be a fixed duration of 3 minutes. Select close, schedule, go. Now you can see those green lines are a lot smaller, and so we're actually able to minimize the contact time to only 3 minutes. And now we have 100% assigned tasks. Now what we want to do is, now we have our Leo tasks assigned. What we want to do is take a look at how Geo and Moo react into this situation. So we can create a new task. We can call this GeoCom. Okay, and like we did before, we'll start with the resource availability. Okay. And we can update this. If we actually come to LeoCom, we can cheat and we can steal the uplink sites. So now I'm switching back to GeoCom. So now I have all my sites, and we can use the available resources, selecting A, B, or C. Now we have our Geo, and let's just add the Meo for time. And now we have Geo and Meo Com. Let's call it Geo Meo Com. Now what we want to do is again create possibilities. Okay. And we want to look at our duration. In this case here, let's increase our duration to about 30 minutes because these are going to be longer communications to those objects. And we're going to do a recurring task based off of resource availability. Okay. What we're going to do is update. And what you'll now see is there are going to be multiple tasks, subtasks being defined here. You can see them right here. So now what we can do is we can close this out. And we want to rerun our schedule because we have now our Geo and Meo. You can see that these are the Geo tasks and these are the Meo tasks. You can see the different durations corresponding to, are they Leo, are they Geo, or are they Meo? Now what we want to do is we want to run the schedule and see what we get. And we're back to that 96%. So we have COM, Leo, COM for Geo. And you can see the different durations associated with those. And so as you scroll, you can see the different ones being used. If we're not satisfied with that 96%, there are other ways to run this schedule. I'm going to actually do a multi-pass. So that first one was just an initial single pass scheduling run. But if you do a second pass, a multi-pass, you can generally get a higher percentage of assigned tasks, depending on your situation. Overall, there are multiple different ways to run and multiple different scheduling algorithms that you can run. There's also greedy, random, squeaky wheel, as well as different custom algorithms that you can do, as well as creating your own algorithm. There's a lot to explore here, so definitely take a look. Now that we have 100% accommodation, let's take a look at what that looks like in STK. So we can just go back, go to STK, and select Animate. What we're going to now do is jump back into STK. And it'll take a second for some of the calculations to run. And we will be getting a Gantt task chain object. The Gantt task chain object is actually a stand-in object that Scheduler uses to provide different time components. So as you can see here, this is actually the schedule. So those purple lines are actually the schedule. So as we'll see more and more in the future, should go here, we can see A is being scheduled at this time, B is being scheduled at this time, and we're going to continue to run. So all of these tasks are being scheduled, and you can see them if you go to the properties, object lines, and these are all of them being defined here. Additionally, Analysis Workbench will show you the different Gantt tasks and all of the different communication tasks that you've seen in Scheduler. They're here. So if you want to see and report on these, you can see that these are the times for GeoCom01. So that's Scheduler. That was a quick little walkthrough on how to use the tools, how to import the objects from SDK, how to define a task like a COM uplink, and then how to visualize that within SDK. Thank you so much for your time, and please let us know if you have any additional questions. Thank you so much. Have a good day.